Let's be honest, waiting for a relationship can feel like wandering in a desert with no signposts. You wonder, God, are you doing something here? Or did I miss a turn somewhere? But what if the waiting isn't just silence, but strategy? What if God is preparing you for something greater than you can see right now? You can desire a relationship with every fiber of your being and still not be ready for one. That's a hard truth, but an important one. Desire is emotional. It comes from the heart, from longing, from a place of need or vision. But readiness is spiritual. It's about being whole, grounded, and mature enough to steward the gift of love without turning it into an idol or a crutch. God sees that difference even when we don't. There's a reason why God doesn't always give us what we desire the moment we ask. He knows what we don't, that certain blessings given too early can actually become burdens. Think about it. You can put someone in a beautiful relationship and watch it crash if the person hasn't dealt with their insecurity, fear of abandonment, or pride. It's not that the relationship was bad, it's that the foundation wasn't ready to hold it. Sometimes the waiting season is God's way of working beneath the surface. You may not see it, but He's addressing things that would explode in a relationship if they stayed hidden. The comparison issues, the bitterness from past hurt, the fear of being alone, the desperate need for approval, these are heart matters that don't go away just because someone starts dating. If anything, relationships expose them more. And God, in His mercy, often delays what we desire to protect us from a deeper heartbreak later. Desire says, I'm tired of being alone. Readiness says, I've learned how to be whole even while I'm alone. That's a big difference. If your desire for a relationship comes from a place of lack, you'll put pressure on another person to fill that gap. And that pressure crushes people. But if your readiness comes from a place of fullness, you won't demand that someone complete you, you'll invite them to join you. That's what makes for a healthy, lasting relationship. God's preparation isn't just about making you a better partner. It's about making you more like Him. He's not in a rush to get you into a relationship if He knows you haven't yet learned to walk in love, patience, self-control, and humility. These things matter. Relationships are mirrors. They don't hide your flaws. They magnify them. That's why God prioritizes your character over your calendar. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's answering them in a way that actually lasts. So if you've been wondering why the relationship hasn't come yet, it may not be a no. It may be a not yet, because God loves you too much to let you enter something prematurely. He's not denying your desire. He's just making sure that when the time comes, you'll be ready to receive what you once only dreamed about, not with fear, not with desperation, but with wisdom, peace, and joy. And when you're truly ready, you'll realize it wasn't just about finding the right person. It was about becoming the right person too. One of the most overlooked parts of preparing for a relationship is getting clarity on your identity. Before God connects two people in purpose, He often separates them for personal growth. That season of solitude is not a punishment, it's a process. It's where God peels back the layers of who you've been pretending to be and reveals who He actually created you to be. And until you know who you are in Him, it's easy to lose yourself in someone else. A relationship, no matter how good, cannot define you. If you step into love without knowing your value, you'll depend on someone else to validate it. And that becomes exhausting for both people. You start reading into every word, every silence, every delay. You wonder if you're good enough, attractive enough, spiritual enough. But when you're rooted in your identity, you stop auditioning for approval. You begin to walk in quiet confidence, not arrogance, not entitlement, but peace. You know you are already chosen, already loved, already seen by God. God doesn't just want you to find someone. He wants you to be someone who doesn't lose their voice in the crowd or shrink to fit into another person's mold. That kind of identity isn't built overnight. It comes from time in the Word. It comes from asking hard questions. It comes from unlearning lies you've believed for years, like you're only valuable if someone chooses you, or you're only lovable if you're flawless. God rewrites those narratives in the secret place. In this process, you start to see how your worth isn't attached to your relationship status. Whether you're single, dating, or married, your identity is secure in Christ. That truth is foundational. Because if you go into a relationship still unsure of your identity, you'll either compromise who you are to keep someone or try to control them to feel secure. Neither ends well. But when you know who you are, you're not shaken by their moods, their praise, or even their rejection. You're anchored. Clarity in identity also helps you recognize compatibility. When you're clear on your purpose, your values, and your boundaries, you won't just date based on attraction or chemistry. You'll look for alignment. And alignment is more than shared hobbies. It's about shared direction. You can't know if someone is going in the same direction as you if you haven't figured out your own path first. That's why God often holds back the relationship until you're able to say, "This is who I am, this is what I carry, and this is what I'm called to do." In a world that tells you to chase love and figure yourself out later, God does the opposite. He brings you back to the mirror of His Word. He speaks identity over you when no one's around to applaud it. And it's in that sacred space that confidence is born, not the loud kind, but the kind that's quiet, consistent, and deeply rooted. When you carry that kind of identity into a relationship, you don't just attract someone, you attract someone healthy, someone ready, someone real. One of the most overlooked signs that God is preparing you for a relationship is emotional healing. Healing isn't glamorous. It doesn't come with big announcements or flashing lights. Often it looks like quiet nights of reflection, moments of unexpected tears, or deep conversations where you finally tell the truth about what hurt you. It's in these raw, often hidden moments that God starts to restore what life and people may have broken. You might not realize it at first, but healing is not about forgetting what happened. It's about releasing the grip that pain has had on your heart. When God begins to prepare you for a relationship, He doesn't just prepare your future, He goes back and deals with your past. He starts highlighting the places where bitterness has been hiding, where unforgiveness has taken root, or where your view of love has been distorted by past experiences. He does this not to shame you, but to set you free. We carry so much into relationships that we don't even recognize. Fear of abandonment from a parent becomes anxiety in dating. Rejection from a past partner becomes hyper-independence. Betrayal leads to walls that keep people out, even the ones who want to stay. But God, in His grace, starts showing you these patterns. He reveals not to condemn, but to transform. And when you begin to cooperate with that healing through prayer, through therapy, through community, you start to feel lighter. Not because the past disappears, but because it no longer defines you. Healing is also a sign of maturity. When you no longer react from your wounds, but respond from wisdom, it shows that growth has taken place. You stop seeing every person through the lens of who hurt you. You stop testing people to prove they'll fail. Instead, you begin to approach relationships with openness, with grace, and with discernment. That shift is spiritual. It's God reshaping your heart for healthy connection. Sometimes healing shows up in the form of boundaries. You stop overextending yourself just to be liked. You stop chasing people who can't give you what you deserve. You start honoring your own worth, not out of pride, but from a place of wholeness. That's not you being cold or distant. That's you being healed. You'll know healing is happening when peace starts to replace panic, when what used to trigger you now teaches you, when you can revisit old memories without reliving the pain. That's not denial, it's evidence that God has done something deep inside of you, and that kind of healing prepares you for a relationship where love doesn't have to fight through walls to reach you. God doesn't just want you to be in a relationship, He wants you to be whole in one. And wholeness comes through healing. So if you're in a season where God is dealing with your emotions, don't resist it. Lean into it. Because the more healed you are, the more ready you'll be to love and be loved without fear. When God starts preparing you for a relationship, one of the earliest and most unexpected signs is a shift in your circle. It might feel like people are drifting away or your social life suddenly looks different than it used to. At first, it's confusing. You wonder if something's wrong. But over time, you begin to realize it's not rejection, it's redirection. God is reordering your relationships to align you with where you're going, not where you've been. Sometimes the people who walked with you in one season aren't meant to walk with you in the next. It doesn't mean they're bad or toxic, it just means their role in your story has changed. Preparation for a healthy relationship often requires space, clarity, and focus. And if your circle is filled with noise, comparison, gossip, or constant drama, it becomes harder to hear God clearly. So in His mercy, He starts removing distractions. You may feel lonely during this process. That's natural. But loneliness isn't always a sign that something's gone wrong. It can be a sign that something's about to change. In the stillness, God gives you room to think differently, to see yourself differently, and to grow in ways you never could in a crowded room. It's in this space that you start evaluating the voices around you. Who speaks life into you? Who respects your values? Who challenges you to grow? If the answers aren't clear, that's probably why God is making some adjustments. This shift can also be a test of identity. When you're no longer surrounded by people who constantly affirm you, you're forced to confront where your confidence really comes from. Do you still feel valuable when you're not included? Do you still trust God's timing when your social calendar is empty? These are hard questions, but they refine you. They anchor you in something deeper than approval. They root you in purpose. Sometimes new people begin to enter your life. They might not look like what you expected. They may not be flashy or fun in the usual sense, but they speak wisdom. They speak truth. They remind you of who you're becoming, not just who you've been. Pay attention to these connections. They're often sent by God to prepare you, sharpen you, or even protect you from settling. The shift in your circle is more than social, it's spiritual. God isn't just changing your friends, He's changing your atmosphere. He's clearing space so that when the right relationship comes along, it doesn't have to fight for your focus. He's preparing you for a connection that's rooted in peace, not pressure. So don't be discouraged when the invites slow down or the conversations grow quiet. Don't fight to hold on to what God is gently removing. Let Him rearrange your circle, because when He does, it's never to isolate you, it's to align you. The right relationship often begins with the right environment, and God knows exactly how to create it. One of the deepest lessons God teaches during the season of preparation is how to love without possessing. It doesn't happen quickly. It's a slow, refining process that challenges the very way we've been taught to view love. The world often says love is about finding someone who's yours, someone who fills your emptiness, completes your life, and never leaves. But that mindset can quickly turn love into ownership and relationships into cages. God's love doesn't operate like that. It's not about clinging or controlling, it's about freedom, trust, and choice. When God prepares you for a relationship, He starts by working on the way you love. He gently exposes the hidden fears behind your affections, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being replaced, the fear that if you don't hold on tight, you'll lose what you waited for. These fears make us try to grip love so tightly that we end up suffocating it. We become possessive, not protective. We confuse control with care. But God doesn't let us stay in that place. He begins to show us how He loves, how He gives us space, how He never forces Himself into our hearts, how He always chooses us but never manipulates us. That kind of love is hard to imitate at first. It feels risky to love without strings, to trust without guarantees. But it's in that very risk that real love starts to take shape. When you learn to love someone as a gift, not a possession, you honor their humanity and their freedom. You don't love to keep them, you love to bless them. God teaches you that people don't belong to you, not even in a committed relationship. They belong to Him. And when you release the idea that someone is yours to control, you begin to find peace. You're no longer driven by fear or insecurity. You're driven by grace. Your love becomes a safe place, not a performance. You can say, "I love you," without needing to be the center of their world. You can cheer for someone's growth, even when it stretches the relationship. You can let go if God asks you to, because you know your identity isn't built on their presence. That kind of love requires maturity. It requires surrender. It requires letting go of the idol of romance and embracing the character of Christ. And that's exactly what God is doing when He prepares you. He's not just getting you ready to fall in love. He's teaching you how to love like Him, not with conditions, not with chains, but with open hands. When you reach that place, relationships stop being about what you can get and start being about what you can give. Not out of obligation, but from a full heart. And that kind of love, the kind that doesn't possess, but protects, doesn't demand, but delights, that's the kind of love that endures. Because it doesn't need to own it, simply chooses every day to serve. There comes a point in the waiting where something shifts deep inside. You're no longer constantly watching the clock, scanning every room for possibilities, or measuring your worth by how close or far you feel from a relationship. Instead, you begin to feel something unfamiliar but profoundly comforting peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from distraction or denial, but the kind that settles into your soul when you finally trust that God knows what He's doing with your life. That's one of the clearest signs God is preparing you for a relationship. The pressure starts to lift. You're no longer consumed by timelines or comparisons. You stop asking, when is it going to happen? And start living like, whenever it happens, I'll be okay. That shift isn't passive, it's powerful. It means you've stopped placing your hope in a future event and started rooting your hope in a present God. And when your peace comes from Him, nothing can shake it. Pressure is exhausting. It drives you to settle, to compromise, to hide parts of yourself just to be accepted. It makes you feel like you're always behind, always lacking, always trying to catch up. But when peace takes over, you stop striving. You start walking with grace. You can attend weddings without bitterness, celebrate others without jealousy, and enjoy your life without constantly thinking about what's missing. That's not detachment, it's trust. God doesn't prepare you for a relationship by rushing you into one. He prepares you by making you whole without one. That's why the pressure has to break before the promise arrives. Because if you're still living under pressure, you'll carry that same anxiety into your relationship. You'll question their intentions, overanalyze their silences, and panic at the first sign of conflict. But peace is what keeps you steady. It gives you the capacity to love without fear, to trust without needing constant reassurance. When peace takes root in your life, it changes the way you see everything. You no longer see singleness as a waiting room, you see it as a classroom. You don't see the absence of a relationship as rejection from God, but as protection and preparation. You start to realize that peace isn't the absence of desire, it's the presence of perspective. You still want love, but you're no longer enslaved to the desire for it. That freedom is what makes you truly ready. And often, it's in that place of peace that love shows up. Not because you forced it, chased it, or manipulated your way into it, but because you were finally still enough to receive it. Peace makes room for clarity. It helps you discern who's right for you and who's just a distraction. It protects you from counterfeits and prepares you for what's real. So when the pressure starts to fade and peace begins to rise, don't question it. That's not you losing interest in love, it's you maturing in it. That's God showing you that you're not just ready for a relationship, you're ready for a healthy one. One of the clearest signs that God is preparing you for a relationship is when your spiritual disciplines begin to deepen. This isn't about performance, routine, or checking off a religious to-do list. It's about your heart beginning to crave more of God, not out of obligation, but out of love. You find yourself spending more time in prayer, not because you're desperate for a relationship, but because you genuinely want to know God's heart. The Word becomes more than a book, it becomes your daily bread. Worship isn't just music, it becomes a lifestyle. As your spiritual life deepens, you begin to see relationships through a different lens. You no longer pray for someone just to keep you company. You pray for someone who aligns with the purpose God is birthing in you. That shift is significant. It means your desires are being purified. You don't want just a partner, you want a spiritual companion. Someone who pushes you closer to God, not just someone who makes you feel good for a moment. That kind of desire only comes from time spent in God's presence. Spiritual disciplines are not about earning God's favor, they are about aligning your heart with His. And when He's preparing you for a relationship, He often starts with your inner world. The way you seek Him in private shapes who you become in public. Intimacy with God teaches you how to handle intimacy with people. Time in prayer teaches you patience. Fasting teaches you self-control. Worship softens your heart. Studying Scripture gives you wisdom. These disciplines aren't random. They're building something solid in you. You may not always see the change happening, but it's there. The fruit begins to show in your conversations, your choices, your reactions. You become less impulsive and more discerning. You stop chasing validation and start pursuing purpose. You don't entertain every opportunity because you've learned to hear God's no just as clearly as His yes. That's what spiritual maturity looks like. It's not always loud or dramatic, but it's powerful. As your spiritual roots go deeper, you begin to build your life on something immovable. That matters because relationships will test you. There will be moments when emotions are high, when communication is hard, when clarity is lacking. In those moments, it's not charm or chemistry that will carry you, it's your spiritual foundation. If you've built your life on Christ, you'll stand firm. If you've built it on feelings, you'll constantly be shaken. God deepens your spiritual disciplines, not just to prepare you to receive love, but to teach you how to steward it well. The strength to forgive, to sacrifice, to stay committed, these don't come naturally. They're forged in secret places of worship, prayer, and surrender. So if you find yourself praying more, studying more, worshiping more, don't see it as random. See it as evidence. God is not only preparing your heart, He's preparing your spirit to carry something sacred. And when the time is right, you won't just be ready for a relationship. You'll be spiritually equipped to thrive in it. When God is preparing you for a relationship, it's easy to assume that every open door will lead directly to a romantic connection. But often He surprises you. The doors that begin to open aren't always relational, they're personal, spiritual, or professional. At first, it can feel frustrating. You've been praying about love, and suddenly God is moving in your career, your friendships, your church involvement, or your inner healing journey. But those unexpected doors are not distractions, they are divine setups. God rarely prepares you for one thing by only working in one area. His preparation is holistic. So while you may be focused on meeting someone, He might be focused on making you someone who's whole, wise, and ready. That's why the doors He opens often lead to growth opportunities, new responsibilities, challenging environments, deeper friendships, or creative passions that you never explored before. These open doors are part of the process. They expand your capacity, sharpen your character, and increase your awareness of who you really are. You might find yourself stepping into leadership roles you didn't ask for. You might be invited into deeper community where you learn how to build trust and resolve conflict. You might get clarity about your calling in a way that redefines what kind of partner you actually need. All of these experiences are shaping you. God isn't just preparing you for a relationship. He's preparing your life to hold one in a healthy, sustainable way. Sometimes the open doors don't look like favor at first. They might come in the form of new challenges, relocating, starting something from scratch, healing from an old wound. But even those doors are significant. They test your obedience. They stretch your faith. They help you let go of your comfort zone so you're not clinging to familiarity, but following God wherever He leads. That posture of surrender is key. It means your heart is no longer chasing outcomes. It's aligned with obedience. And here's what often happens. While you're walking through these unexpected doors, something shifts in you. You start becoming more alive, more self-aware, more grounded. You stop idolizing the idea of a relationship and you start embracing the process God is taking you through. That shift doesn't delay your future, it actually draws it closer. Because now, if and when a relationship enters the picture, it's not trying to fill a void. It's walking into a life already in motion, already blessed, already bearing fruit. God knows what He's doing. He opens the right doors at the right time, and sometimes the doors that don't look romantic are the ones that do the most to prepare you for romance. So don't be discouraged when the obvious doesn't happen. Pay attention to what is happening, because behind those unexpected doors, God is setting the stage not just for a relationship, but for a future that's full, intentional, and anchored in purpose. In the journey of preparing for a relationship, God doesn't just focus on bringing someone into your life. He focuses on transforming your heart, your mindset, and your spirit to handle the blessing of love with maturity and grace. The signs of this preparation might not always align with your immediate desires, but they are deeply intentional. Whether it's emotional healing, clarity and identity, a deepening of spiritual disciplines, or the unexpected doors that begin to open, each of these is part of God's meticulous work in you. They refine you, expand your capacity for love, and prepare you to give and receive in a way that honors Him. As you wait and walk through these seasons of preparation, remember that God is always working in the background. He's not withholding love from you. He's making sure you're fully ready to step into it, equipped with wisdom, peace, and wholeness. Trust that the process isn't in vain. The work God is doing in you right now is the very thing that will allow you to experience love in its purest, most fulfilling form. And when the time is right, the love that God has in store will surpass anything you could have imagined, because it will be built on the foundation of His perfect plan.